welcome to today's webinar, where we're going to talk about something that's been hot for a long time, and maybe you haven't seen it fully in action yet, and that's SDN, but we're going to talk about it in a real world setting. So today we have panelists from presenters from Turk Telecom and NETSIA. And for those of you who may not know, Turk Telecom has been around for 180 years. It's the first, I didn't know that. It's the first integrated telecoms operator in Turkey. It's a multi-play provider with about 17 million fixed access lines, 15 million fixed broadband, 26 million mobile users, and as well as 3 million TV subscribers and as of the middle of this year. And they have operations in 81 cities with about 35,000 employees. So it's a significant size telecom operator. And NETSIA is a software solution provider that develops leading edge telecom solutions that brings the latest innovations in telecom technologies. And we've tracked NETSIA for some time now. They have solutions both on the fixed and the mobile space. And I'm sure that Mustafa will give us a deeper introduction to the company itself when we go through it. And so welcome to today's webinar, where we're all going to learn about how to unlock your CAPEX savings and achieve operational efficiency with an open, disaggregated SDN-enabled broadband. Now, that's a mouthful. We couldn't fit it in the title, but that's what we're all going to learn about. So let me get going. So when we talk as analysts to the carriers worldwide, and we've been, unfortunately, analysts travel a lot, go to a lot of conferences, talk to a lot of operators. What we're hearing from them across the board is a focus on streamlining, OPEX reduction, and there is this ongoing drive to become more efficient. And we all hear this, right? We see all the management consultants who work with telcos. You show this chart that says, look, my return on capital, employed, my return on invested capital is not very good. In some cases, depending on the operational efficiency of the telco, you may be borrowing at a higher cost. Your weighted average cost of capital is even higher than the returns you're getting on it. And so they realize that. And so there's a lot of drive towards automation, right-sizing organizations, focusing on more for less, trying to get velocity on service rollouts. Along with that, we see things in the infrastructure space where they're trying to modernize their infrastructure, this cloudification effort, trying to use public clouds, hybrid clouds, or public-private clouds. They're talking about sovereign clouds because as regulated entities, many of the telcos, have to keep the data within the country, but they still are interested in cloud architectures. And we've seen many of the tier ones around the world, in fact, not just the tier ones, but tier one and tier twos, look at asset rationalization. Do I really need to own my towers? Do I really need to own, my CEOs? And they're delayering. And so they're basically packaging certain assets, infrastructure assets, to free up money. Or in some cases, they're trying to say, look, I'm going to sell this part of the business. But other telcos are saying, you know what, I'm going to buy your part of the business for strategic reasons. And so that's ongoing. And again, right, there's a higher cost of capital, there's a higher cost of borrowing right now. They're looking to partner and be more efficient about the use of capital in terms of bringing communication service to the customers. In addition, what we're hearing is this desire for network monetization, and it's less so on the wireline side. We're hearing a lot on obviously the 5G side. It's like I spend billions and tens of billions to acquire spectrum and build up my 5G network. How do I monetize it again? And that's a challenge. But now they're talking about, hey, maybe I need a more programmable infrastructure. Maybe I need to expose telco APIs. Those of us who have been working in the SDN space for the last, decade or so, sure, we want, programmable networks. Sure, we want applications on top of the networks, and so for some of us, this is old news, but in some cases, it's good that the telcos are focusing on it across the board. And then I think no webinars nowadays can be complete without mentioning on Gen AI. So we will have to mention Gen AI because the telcos, when you meet them nowadays, the first words are also Gen AI. But Gen AI really, from an operational perspective, needs to be a technology that's sort of part of the business, and you need to figure out how to use it. And so a lot of telcos are trying to understand how to use Gen AI, how to monetize with Gen AI. But fundamentally, I would say that there's a lot of maybe not low-hanging fruit, but middle-hanging fruit in terms of operational excellence, in terms of cloudifications and re-platform and data strategies. I think those things are equally important, and Gen AI can bring some of those elements in there and make it easier. But Gen AI is not a strategy. Gen AI is not a goal. Gen AI is a tool, right? Um, and along with all these efforts, I think what we're hearing a lot of telcos is that there is a need. It's not just the technology, it's not just the business model, but it's the people. And I think the people are really important. Cultural shifts, upskilling, reskilling, trying to change the culture within the telcos, upgrading the skills, modernizing the workforce. I think that's what we're seeing. And this velocity and agility are becoming a lot more important with telcos. And along with that, all these changes, there's a couple other elements that we're hearing as well. One is cybersecurity is becoming important, right? It's fix your own problems. Some of the telcos are concerned about breaches. They want to sell security services on the network. But to do that, you need a more flexible network. So that's something that we're seeing, right? So whether it's security in your network, security on top of your network, or some kind of security services for your networks, that's what we're hearing across the board. And nowadays, sustainability, which used to be front and center just the last couple of years, less we hear about it less, but it's still a critical element. And in many of the telcos' vision and commitments to society and the governments that they have a 2025, a 2030, a 2027 goal to reduce the carbon footprint. And so when you have that, trying to be more flexible, I think it's necessary. And then, finally, there are other non-traditional connectivity opportunities, either satellite, direct-to-device, fixed wireless expansion, expansion into other services that go beyond the WAN termination point into network as a service, right, for campuses and enterprise customers. So these are some of the things that we're hearing on an ongoing basis, right? As we travel around the world, this is what the common themes are in general, not necessarily in that order. The different telcos will have a different order, but I think at the top of many telcos' minds, that operational excellence, right? The re-platforming, the cloudification, and of course the automation and the OpEx savings that comes from that. And so, when we ask them, dig one level down, right? The platform's important, and we've known that for some time. What are they embracing, right? A lot of them are embracing open platforms, right? That's what they say they want. They want agile, disaggregated, automated telecom operations. So open platforms are important because very often they're concerned about this vendor lock-in thing, right? And they want flexibility. So disaggregation, the software-defined nature, virtualized. And again, all these principles are things that we've seen before. But I think the difficulty is not so much whether you see or whether you understand them, it's how do you actually enact them and make it happen. And today I'm really glad because we're actually going to hear a story about how it actually happened, right? Because SDN and NFV have been around for some time. I mean, it's like 13, 14 years since we've talked about sort of SDN. We haven't fully achieved that in across all the telcos in the world, even though everyone understands it and wants to achieve it. And then the question is how do you get there, right? So, as always, as analysts, we've tracked this space since the very, very, very early days, and it didn't start with OpenFlow, by the way. Look, pre-OpenFlow, there was open networking already, right? So, the Linux stack is open networking. You have Snort, you have, Quagga, you have Zob, and all these other things. But over the last decade, we've had these innovations across the board, right? So SDN controllers, virtual switches, we've seen all these elements, come and go. Some of these have become embedded, right? I mean, the SDN maybe didn't win as a controller ecosystem per se, but a lot of these ideas are embedded within the actual infrastructure itself. So the architecture has won or is in the process of winning. Programmable networking is in the process of that. And we've seen different network OSs, SD-WAN, OpenConfig, automation. That continues today, right? I mean, there's still an ongoing focus on automation. Maybe you don't hear about, P4 or oh yeah, we don't hear about open flow very much anymore, but we don't hear so much about the programmability, but the automation, the programmatic aspects, that openness, I think, is still continues to be important. And then likewise, we had the sort of the sister or the brother of SDN, which is NFV, that virtualization. We don't talk about NFV now because people think it's not a cool word. But look, we're talking about virtualization and cloudification. And that's the virtualization, the abstraction of the application. And that definitely has continued, right? So from the early days of OpenStack and DPDK and VNFs and all these things, today we talk about cloud native applications, right? So the containerized. We talk about the modern services, but a lot of that had its roots through this journey, right? I mean, we when Telecom and NETSIA first approached me, I'm like, oh look, it's SIBA, right? It's operational productized SIBA, and you'll hear from Suleiman. It's achieved some of the promises that we knew was there, but they've managed to unlock it. And I think the difficulty here is, can you do it yourself, right? And I think part of it is first understanding what they've done, what's possible, and then I think beyond that is to say, well, can I achieve this myself? And so while we had all these journeys, some of the things that we did see, unfortunately, in the market was, that why has it been not as fast as we thought, right? So 10 years ago. And I think very, very often, I think, and it's not just telcos, right? A lot of large organizations, a lot of people for which infrastructure is critical or applications are critical, don't want to change, right? It's like, if I change my working stack, will this be more difficult for me? And my staff is already stretched, right? How do I make this happen? In some cases, a lack of in-house skills, right? It's the culture, it's the people. It's like, okay, I see it. I can modify my business, I can modify my technology, I can modify my processes, but my people aren't ready, right? And how do I do this, right? Maybe you have to find someone who's done it, talk to them, or maybe you find a partner who's done it and can help you do it, right? I think that's part of the element. But I think you have to find the right partner, because a lot of the system integrators or ISVs that came in early into SDN and NFV is like, yeah, we'll open this aggregated, but then we're going to add our own special sauce onto it so that you stay with us and you keep paying us service fees, right? Because a lot of the incentives is, we want to stay with you. You pay us to make more changes to the code. Yeah, it's open source, but we've customized it for you. It's still open source, but we've customized it for you, and you have to keep us around. And I think part of the incentives that we're not fully aligned. And then to be frank, the last 3-4 years, 5G has dominated, right? We were so excited about 5G. It's on billboards all over the world, right? Doesn't matter which country you're in. You go in somewhere else and I see a 5G poster. I can't understand the language, but I can see 5G, right? So, and it's been this. I would say it's great, but it's been this distracting, and especially for carriers with both services, 5G has sort of sucked the energy and the focus, right? But the reality is, look, your fiber, your broadband assets are important. And I think it's just as important to say, look, your open RAN stuff, right? We have open broadband. We have, so why don't we bring it back and use a technology that's been proven and take the same principles that you want and apply it to your wireline broadband? And I think that's part of what interested me, what caught my attention, when I started talking more to NETSIA and Telecom. And NETSIA, we've been tracking for some time. And I think it's really great that Suleiman and Mustafa are here to tell the story of how they did it and some of the achievements and the outcomes, which actually are quite impressive. So with that, let me stop talking here and let me turn it over to the stars of the show here. Let me bring up Suleiman from Telecom, and he's going to tell you about their journey, and more importantly, I would say, listen very carefully to the outcomes of what they've achieved. So Suleiman.
Thank you very much, Roy. And let me share my screen. You can see it, right?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, dear participants and colleagues. My name is Süleyman Çimen, and I'm responsible for fixed access architecture in Türk Telekom. Today, I want to share best practice of SEBA, which includes unlocking CAPEX savings and operational efficiency. Let me share the agenda which we will follow today. This is the agenda, and I will start very briefly with about TT page. Then you will see the architecture of SEBA, importance of simplicity, saving and benefits, SEBA innovation environment, SEBA deployments in Turkey, and I will finalize it with next steps. Türk Telekom is the incumbent operator in Turkey. We have approximately 53 million subscribers and 15 million for fixed broadband. TT has more than 32 million total fiber home passes, and totally we have about 450K kilometer fiber in 81 cities. 52% of our LT base stations are connected directly by fiber, and our LT population coverage is more than 99%. And also in TV market, TT is the second biggest player in Turkey. Let's see the architecture and understand how SEBA components deployed and how they work. The architecture you see here shows the components of SEBA and where it exists in real network environments. Let's take a look at the components from the left side. Inside home, we have many different types of devices that need broadband, right? Like laptops, phones, IoT devices, and TVs. To connect these devices, we need a gateway, as you can imagine. As you see, we are using two different devices to provide this gateway. I will explain why we use two devices in the next slides. After passing through the passive network, we can see the white box OLT devices. These OLTs work with SEBA software and also work with SEBA white box OLT adapters. In this case, there is no ONU brand dependency, and similarly, ONUs can work independently with OLT brand as well. Next, we can see SEBA Edge, which is the control layer component. It runs on SEBA Edge servers and consists of container-based software developed by NETSIA and TT together. I think every one of us knows operators often have different kind of infrastructures and capabilities. Some prefer to run functions on blade servers, while the others prefer cloud-based solutions, right? Each approach has pros and cons, we know that. The good news is SEBA can support both needs. For example, as Türk Telekom, we are working on migrating our environment from Kubernetes to the OpenShift platform. Moving further to the right, we can see SEBA Central, the component that manages the system. You can think this like NMS system in legacy network. One of the best function of this NMS component is vendor independency. This means it can manage any device compatible with the platform. It's flexible, adaptable, and can meet the needs of not just Türk Telekom, but also other global operators. By the way, ISP may be tier 1 or other size, no problem to use these components. Think simple and make it easy. This was the beginning of our journey in 2017 when we start working on SEBA. There were too many blur areas, to clarify. From the operator's point of view, a new FTTH solution should support everything that legacy supported before. Also, this should be supported by latest and greatest technique. I mean, virtualized and disaggregated, right? So we started working with ONF community, which continue a part of LF now. Then there was a major question, what an operator needs, actually what we need. And we have started to line up the needs. We agreed with TT internal project members and NETSIA, who is our integrator. And we aligned that if we want everything at the beginning, maybe we cannot get anything at the end. But if we define the needs correct, then we can run the platform smoothly. So think simple, specify correct needs, and make it easy. That was the motto at the beginning. And this is the picture of simplicity. These two options are our starting point. I think everybody knows 80-20 rule. So TT has more than 15 services on the fixed side, and more than 80% of total subscribers are using triple play services. So HSI, IPTV, and VoIP services were mandatory for deploy. You can ask, how about the other services like PRI? Now it's working perfectly, but at the beginning it was not. And the idea was starting with the most critical services, triple play services. The second part is determining the devices. As a tier one operator, TT has responsibilities to other ISS in Turkey. As I mentioned before, TT is incumbent operator, so TTNet is not only one ISS who is wholesale customer. So we have to offer similar solutions to all service providers. For example, every ISS can use their own RG device in FTTH network. So in our scenario, demarcation point should be ONU device and entrance of home. So why do we use a complex ONU device which is managed by complex OMCI stacks? Instead of complexity, we used layer 2 bridge ONU devices, and the integration of ONU became so easy. Only we configured GAM, TCONT, VLAN, and quality of service parameters on ONU by using pure OMCI stacks. Okay, you can ask what happened to RG device. RG is managed by ACS via TR69. It continued. At the end, we separated devices to two easy integration point. To summarize it, operator requirements are important and deterministic for workflow, because everything is established on operator's workflow. Let me tell you something which is significant for everyone in this project. Türk Telekom is the first operator who deployed SEBA on live network. This is one of the major milestones, I think, in SEBA deployment and development process, because that was the first time we faced with the reality on the site with this deployment. First of all, our aim was not to hurt customer experience. And thanks to all team that there was no disturbing issues, because we all worked very carefully. We worked carefully for minimize the problems that could negatively affect the customer experience. In this respect, we have a goal to deploy all Turkey, and to get closer to this, we have a target of 1 million home pass in near future, and we are realizing what needs to be done in this direction one by one. That's why our latest tender includes thousands of SEBA OLT devices and millions of SEBA ONU devices. We have a lot of experience on these topics. Most operators pay attention to CAPEX, OPEX savings. This makes sense, because this is the latest and greatest technique, so it should offer savings on some areas. We can approve that there are acceptable saving ratings on CAPEX and OPEX side, especially the CAPEX saving we saw during the SEBA workflow is more than 50%. This is awesome and should be considered by all ISPs who are running with legacy solutions. And short-throw SSPSS integration process is the other magic benefit. You know, if an operator works with more than one vendor, then operator will have to make individual integrations for each vendor and vendor devices also. I will show a detailed slide again. Is it enough? No. They should follow the software as well. So what's new in SEBA is operator only deploys the platform once, and then adding or removing vendor is only a choice of operator. I know none of operators wants to remove a vendor from existing network normally, but for abnormal scenarios, you have to make a plan B for scenario, I think. Also, when operator needs to add a new vendor in legacy platforms, for every vendor, it will take 1 to 3 months to complete OSS/BSS integration. But in SEBA platform, first integration is like a new vendor. After first integration of platform, it only takes maybe 1 day to 1 week totally. But let me remind something, there is something crucial as long as the vendor device has standard interfaces on it. Vendor independency is one of the other critical benefits. Not XDSL, but FTTH has some vendor dependency because of so many proprietary solutions. If you choose vendor proprietary solution, that means you lost the independency, right? I know this is not the worst case for an operator, but we have better solutions like SEBA. SEBA is vendor agnostic platform, and Edge, OLT, ONU, and NMS may be from different vendors, and it may be the same vendor as well. But the important part is these are all up to operator. Please remember the last pandemic a few years ago. Some operators couldn't get chipset or devices during pandemic, right? At this point, for the SEBA solution, no vendor dependency. So by nature, the risk of chipset crisis decreases almost zero by means of a redundant vendor structure. And as the last title, low error rate is another interesting topic. When we compared the error rates with legacy solutions, we saw that we achieved much better results in SEBA. For example, we compared the OLT uptimes, and it was better in SEBA solution. This is an example for shorter voice SPSS integration. On the left-hand side, there is a legacy network. We have three different vendors there, and each vendor has their own NMS system. Also, OSS integration must be done for each vendor, as you can imagine. This is just, I told in previous slide, and mean that operators should spend much time and money for each. On the right-hand side, SEBA platform may include not three vendors, more vendors, but only one NMS like an umbrella. So less spending time and less money for integration, we can say. This is the SEBA physical test environment, which is based in Ankara. We have more than 1K ONU inside, half GPON and half XGS-PON supported. 5 OLTs are deployed in the center. In the closed loop, as you can imagine, there's a traffic generator, ONU pool, switches, OLT devices, and some edge servers are running. And what we are testing in the center is traffic load, firmware updates and upgrades, also restarting devices simultaneously, power consumption test, and of course, quality of service tests. This is the map of Turkey. You can see blue tokens in here. These blue tokens are 2 edge locations. Actually, these are data centers which are located in 2 biggest cities in Turkey. We are serving all over the country from these edge servers. In other words, control plane of SEBA is running on these edge servers, we can say. If you look at the map, left to right, you can see that it's approximately 1,600 kilometers. Because of disaggregated and virtualized network has edge servers and OLTs, so we have to be sure that the distance is not problem to run devices smoothly, right? That was a big question for us to understand if it will work or not with the effect of distance. So we checked it, tried over 3K kilometer distance, and we saw that 2 edge can cover all country. This is why we use 2 edge locations in this big country. Also, you can see green tokens as well. This means OLTs are deployed in distributed architecture. For now, there are a lot of cities covered by SEBA, but upcoming months, we will see that SEBA will cover all cities, I hope. This is my last slide, and these titles are what we interested in SEBA. I want to mention again that this new disaggregated and virtualized world shape up to operator needs. On the left-hand side, you can see what we are working on actively on SEBA, and let's talk the titles on the left. First of all, we think that not every operator will have their own data center, so it should work cloud native. We believe that setting up new user device by visiting home is so expensive for every operator, so zero-touch provisioning is a must. To make operation easy, there must be telemetry data pool. And of course, AI. If we are talking about a latest and greatest system, then it should include artificial intelligence functions to make our work easier. On the right-hand side, you can see the titles we are interested, and we consider the titles on the right-hand side as feature improvements of SEBA. Of course, all these topics are important, and we know depending on operator needs. And finally, as a tier one operator's point of view, do not hesitate to try SEBA and see the benefits, I can say. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Suleiman. And again, very impressive in terms of the rollout. Obviously, it's a big country with a big subscriber base, and being able to roll out and disaggregated, open virtualized solution is, and open source based, right? So it's really, really powerful. And I think significant benefits, and as you point out, right, CapEx savings come from having your choice of different vendors. Your OpEx savings come from consolidating your NMS down to a single system. And obviously, I'm sure with the programmability and all that, we'll achieve more over time. So without further ado, let me turn it over to Mustafa to provide some details in terms of if someone wants to do what Turk Telecom did, right? Can NETSIA help, and how can you help?
Thank you, Roy. Let me also share my slides. And yep, can you see it now in full screen? Is it fine?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yes, my name is Mustafa Özden. I'm working as sales and project coordinator in NETSIA team. And today I would like to give you some more information about NETSIA Broadband Suite and NETSIA in general. Actually, Suleiman and Roy really explained a lot about our motivation, why we are here, and what the benefits are. But I will just try to explain it from a vendor perspective. So who are we? We as NETSIA is based in Silicon Valley, in Santa Clara, and we actively participate with the open source communities and standard bodies. The aim is to provide actually the telco grade, hardened and supported distributions of these open source platforms. That is a continuous work actually, because in these communities, developments are done by different parties. We also contribute, other parties also contribute, and there comes out a community code. But we should do it in a continuous manner to have a telco grade and hardened distribution. And Broadband Suite is one of the examples there. We started with ONF, the R-Core starting from the R-Core days, then the SIBA Volta projects. We contributed to that project and then took that experience there, the architecture, the reference architecture, and productized it. So this is what we mainly do as NETSIA. And what was the motivation behind that? Actually, Roy explained it very well. And also Suleiman added the perspective from the operator side. Actually, the need for the fiber expansion is clear. The fiber is the right technology at the moment for the broadband access. The fixed wireless access is not cannot replace the FTTH solutions. So there's a need for that. However, as also Suleiman mentioned, there's an issue about supply chain. It is not, since we have this limited flexibility there on the supply chain, we can face issues like the chipset shortage, for example. This is mainly also related to the vendor locking issue. You cannot add another vendor easily to your platform when you want to extend your coverage. You have to do a lot of work on the OSS BSS side. I mean, 1 to 3 months is very optimistic. Actually, I heard from one of the tier ones in UK that they are normally spending like 1 year for adding a new vendor as a silo to their network. Because the OSS BSS part is very complicated in some operators. And so Actually, vendor lock-in affects a lot of things, both supply chain and when you want to extend it, you face these kind of challenges. So based on this challenge, we started working with ONF, as I mentioned, and ONF came up with a new architecture aiming to have the flexibility and openness in this fixed access networks. So for the flexibility, we chose SDN and FEN cloud technologies. Roy gave the view on that as an analyst perspective. And for the openness, they chose white box and open source technology, the open source as their way of approaching things. So that was at that time kind of a vision. We worked on that for years, and we really realized, yes, SDN was, as Roy mentioned, SDN was a big, huge dream, but at least we realized that SDN and FB Cloud perspective on the access network side of things, which was really rigid, which was not flexible at all, which we had the challenge. So the segregation and automation, which is the momentum today for the access networks, became a reality as a telecom trend today. So we are talking about the trends in telecom operators, and whenever we approach an operator, they always ask for more flexibility. How can we automate the things? We want to have easy automation. We want to disaggregate the software and hardware, and that is how this happens actually. This is what we are doing. So NETSIA Broadband Suite, our flagship product, is a cloud-native and multi-vendor fiber broadband platform. It is based on open interfaces and standards, not only ONF specifications, but also BBF specifications are covered. We embrace different standards. We always provide this as open. And the good thing is this is field proven. This product is there serving, as Süleyman mentioned, serving the mass production in the market, in the inter-telecom network. This is what we are doing, baseline. And how we did that, we had three principles, as I mentioned: openness, being cloud native, everything is based on containers, microservices, and it's completely cloud native. We benefit a lot from that. And it's future proof. I mean, your road to the 5G and beyond goes through this SDNized access networks. So with these three principles, we approached the idea, and now we can bring three major benefits for the operator. Actually, it's always good to hear from the operator themselves directly about these benefits. I will just iterate again what we can provide to all the operators. First of all, a cost-effective, flexible phone sourcing comes because we give the freedom. We are a pure software company. We provide only a software. We are not pushing or preferring any of the hardware vendors. We have partners that we work closely with, but we have partners. We have an ecosystem, actually. So we give the operator a freedom. That freedom gives the operator also a better pricing, better alternatives, and also the agility on the procurement side. That agility is not only on the procurement side, but also for the platform, for managing the platform, because everything is containerized, microservices based, and if you want to change something, if you want to improve things, or you just simply want to bug fix something, you just take out one of the microservices and replace it. One module on the on that containerized platform, sorry for that. You can change it and update it, and it works without any service interruption. So it is a very agile method of doing things as well. And as Süleyman mentioned, there's a unified platform. With this unified platform, you also don't need to integrate with the OS SPSS every time you add a new vendor equipment. You have one OS SPSS integration. Once you do that, and afterwards it's all abstracted on the OSS side. You don't need to worry about that. The rest of the story is also standards based, and it's connected to NETSIA. But you'll see that in on the next slide. So how does this happen? On the left side is a simple legacy FTTH way of doing things. Two different vendors, two different NMS systems, two different types of OLT devices, but they are two different silos and two different OSS integrations mainly. So we changed the scene. We became coming like a single NMS software as NETSIA Broadband Suite. And how we changed the overall idea is to have one OSS BSS integration only. Do we do it once? And the rest of the story for OLT-A, OLT-B, or OLT-C, different OLT vendors, different technologies, different integration methods also, we can work with different OLTs. And on the ONT side, we also work with different vendors. Plus, we make these OLTs also work with different ONT vendors. So we enable them to mix and match. We worked with one of the big legacy vendors, for example. We integrated their BBF native device into our product, although, as I mentioned, we are a ONF-CBA architecture-based product. We integrate the BBF native device to our BBF interfaces. And thanks to the VOMCI stack, VOMCI specifications from BBF, we could also use different ONTs integrated with that OLT. Although normally you cannot do that, but with this technology, you can really mix and match different ONTs, different OLTs, and really you can imagine that the biggest part of the investment when you want to extend your network is the ONT part, because it's per subscriber. And at that point, if you benefit from there, you really reach incredible percentages. Süleyman mentioned a little bit. And when we have the business case with different operators, we also see that. What do you mean with different operators? Actually, we had a lot of lab trials in different parts of the world. Some in UK, in Brazil, in Turkey as well. We did one in Pakistan, with another one in Taiwan, and we have also another ongoing deployment in Europe, in one of the major operators in Europe. We are deploying it now, and hopefully we'll announce it by the end of this year. So with working with all these operators, actually, we also build the business case together. We get their feedback, all these geographics are different. In US, it's a different story. In Taiwan, it's a very different story, actually. The priorities are different. The cost of the hardware is different in Taiwan and in US, for example, in other areas as well. So from here, actually, we also see that the benefits are clear. The CAPEX benefits are clear. We pessimistically say that 20 to 40% of benefits on the CAPEX side and 10 to 20% on the OPEX side, we analyze with all these operators, actually. And how we do that is mainly we work with our partners. These are some of the partners that we work closely. Some of them are system integrator partners like Reply, like Venco. These are working as our partners in different regions. And apart from that, we also work with hardware partners, and we also develop business together with these hardware partners, actually. We approach the different customers together. So we have a range of partners on the hardware side, on system integration side, and we are happy to add more in this ecosystem, actually. If anyone is interested in partnering with us, they are welcome to reach us anytime. So I will wrap up. This was my presentation. Uh, we just want to give three main messages. It's important to start today because the transformation to the cloud is there. It's inevitable, and the sooner you start, it will be better. And technology, sometimes people say, okay, but yes, it may not be mature enough yet. The SDN, as Roy, you said, SDN seems to be a very long journey for most of the operators. But however, this is there actually. The SDNI's virtualized broadband is there, mature, and it's been live for years now in a tier one operator in mass production. So it's delivering all the business promises. It has a superior performance. And yeah, you may worry about, yeah, but the organization is not ready for that. We cannot do that. We cannot customize that. We cannot do that. Yeah, we are here to help. We understand that. Not all the organizations, not all the operators may be ready to do that themselves, but we are ready to help. Our team is ready. We can integrate with your systems. We can customize according to the needs. Software is ours, and software part is the flexible and easier part of the story. So yeah, that's basically my presentation. And thank you very much for listening.
Excellent. Thank you, Mustafa. All right, let's go to the questions. And for the audience, you go ahead and on your Zoom console, you have the Q&A tab in there. You're welcome to submit your questions through that, and we'll give you a few minutes to do that. In the meantime, I actually have questions to kick us off. So I know that we talked about this aggregated open approach, and thank you both for sharing sort of the details of the deployment. I think one of the things that I think it's still top of mind for a lot of carriers out there, and actually it should be top of mind for all of us, sustainability. And as we look at all the weather patterns around the world and what's happening, I think regardless, it's not a bad thing to try to be more sustainable, use our resources more wisely. Can either of you talk about the disaggregated open approach with SIBA and how does that benefit sustainability? And Mustafa or Suleiman, whomever wants to answer, go ahead.
Let me jump in and say a couple of words. First of all, let me remind something about sustainability. I think it's not related only recycling something, but it's also related with using resources efficiently, right? So SEBA is built on an open platform that's not tied to any single vendor, which makes it very sustainable. It allows operators to work with multiple vendors, giving them flexibility and helping to reduce cost. And this open approach means operators can choose the best technology available without, being locked into one provider. It also makes stock management easier as different vendors' equipment can be used together, reducing the complexity of managing inventory. And additionally, SEBA improves accessibility by allowing operators to scale their network, reach new markets, Overall, in my opinion, SEBA is a sustainable solution that prepares the operator for the future.
Excellent. Thanks, Suleiman. Any words to add, Mustafa?
Yeah, additional to that, actually, virtualization itself, when you virtualize your control plane, it gives you the optimization ability. You can easily scale in and scale out according to the subscriber range that you have in your network. And maybe more important than that, okay, softwareization helps us a lot from the resource perspective, resource utilization perspective, but actually it helps us a lot on the operations side. So especially for the field operations, we do a lot of truck rolls actually to help the end users. You don't need that. When you separate the hardware and software, you have more control on the hardware. You don't need to go to an OLT to do something because you can do everything on the OLT remotely. And that helps a lot when I think about sustainability. You maybe remember ONF's report about Who Dares Wins report about this. And I mean, most of the costs was about truck rolls there. And it's a really important thing. If you just decrease that, helps a lot on the environment.
Very fair. No, that's excellent. And then I think, while you're still talking, Mustafa, I saw that, with regard to the SEBA ecosystem, I think it's clear from the carriers, the more people in the ecosystem, the better for the carriers. But for the new players, how are you encouraging them to join, and what are the benefits that a provider has, or whomever else, right, from joining the SEBA ecosystem? Um,
Um, SEBA has now in a different phase.
mhm,
Did a lot of development actually with the ONF community. And there came to a stage. Now we are in a stage that we have to productize what is now available. So it's kind of a commercialization stage. And Linux Foundation at the moment is a perfect fit for that.
mhm.
So for when I look at the perspective of different parties to join this community, there are a lot of benefits. One of them is that they immediately have a software partner or a hardware partner there already working with the community. So it's already an ecosystem actually. And the other part is Linux Foundation themselves are motivating the industry to go to this path. So they will have the Linux Foundations also support when they join this Linux Foundation broadband community in general.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, we have questions here from the audience. So let me just go ahead. This one looks like it's for Suleiman. It's can you provide more visibility into the timeline for Turk Telecom to roll out the SEBA solution? Suleiman.
Yeah. Roy, let's divide it to two parts, from starting point to deployment and from initial deployment to today. As you mentioned at the beginning, this is a journey, let's say a journey. It was 2017 when we start discussions in ONF first. It took 4 years to create an open source platform with all contributors, a lot of vendors and operators as well. When we came to 2021, triple play services were ready with telco grade quality. So TT deployed on live network first. From initial deployment to today, it's about 3 years past, and now we have more than 110K home pass. And let me say that journey is still going on. For the next years, we will see millions of home pass, I hope.
Excellent. Excellent. No, that's actually very encouraging and realistic too, right? I think that gives people an idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know while still we're on you talked a bit about, that this can also benefit, small operators, right? I mean, Telecom, obviously, you have a lot of subscribers, tens of millions. And a small operator, do you think the SEBA platform makes sense for us? This is obviously a small operator that's asking.
Is it for me or for Mustafa?
For you, either
Okay.
way, starts with you and then Mustafa can join in.
Okay. Roy, I think, SEBA is designed to be flexible and scalable. It means it can adapt both tier one and small operators. Even if you are a small regional operator, SEBA can help you by reducing costs and simplifying your network operations. Since SEBA is cloud native, you don't need to set up or manage your own data centers on server infrastructure like Türk Telekom.
Mhm.
You can see and you can use SEBA through the cloud, which makes it easier to implement and maintain. In this way, you can benefit from SEBA without having to invest a large-scale infrastructure, and it can grow with your needs as your business expands. Also working with new players, new vendors, this will absolutely have price advantage for small operators. In this new era, the prices are not same, which offered by the biggest global vendors, I can say.
Excellent. Mustafa.
Totally agree to Suleiman. Additional to that, we have an ongoing work of helping these small operators especially from their commercial perspective. Uh, we have a cloud native product, so why should that be on premise? That can be on cloud, that can provide not only the access but also the OSS side of things. So if there's someone from a smaller operator and think that this is for tier ones, no, it is not. Just reach me and reach us, and we will give them more details about what we are doing from also the business perspective. It's a complete different business model. It's a complete different approach that will directly help them in their business.
Excellent. SEPA as a service.
Yeah.
Very good.
More
Just
than
to
that.
round us up, close up today, I think we're near the top of the hour. So we thank the audience for staying with us. No, aside from some of the numbers we've talked about, sort of, potentially sort of magnitude of CapEx savings, and I know, Mustafa, you mentioned some OpEx ranges as well that you're seeing. This question is, can you share other operational benefits or operational benefits? Feel free to reiterate. I think the question is about, not just CapEx, but what are you seeing on OpEx as well? And either one of you can take it. Maybe Suleiman first, and then Mustafa to wrap up.
Yeah. Roy, to be honest, we didn't calculate the exact numbers yet for OpEx side, but we know clearly, very clearly, that single NMS, ease of OSS integration, zero-touch provisioning, these are really important, significant for all operators. These titles have a lot of benefits. But as I mentioned, if you are asking the percentage, we didn't calculate yet for operations side.
I think that's fair. And I think we look forward to seeing that, in the next year in terms of the exact. And as you say, I think the numbers are going to be quite significant. Mustafa.
I mean, additional to what Suleiman said, and Suleiman also mentioned during the presentation about this work, we compared the product with some legacy vendors' performance, and we with an independent actually entity doing that kind of a comparison, and we saw that we have 5 times less downtime and 8 times less trouble tickets. So overall, only this actually helps a lot on the operations cycle. Of course, there are lots of other operations parts, but just only helping the support and field operations like this really will exceed 20%. But as I said, pessimistically, since we didn't calculate exactly, we say that we reached to 20% of OpEx benefits.
Excellent. And then I think, as you point out, right? I mean, it's clear that there are going to be benefits, and those numbers you just cited, 5 times, 8 times, those are significant numbers in terms of actual operational benefits. And so I think, in terms of wrapping up, from an analyst perspective, we've been tracking this for some time. I'm really glad to see this operational. I really appreciate both of you being very upfront, candid, realistic, transparent about what you're seeing. I mean, it is the open way, the open source way. And I think, again, right, there is a community out there. And now that they see the actual concrete benefits, I'm hopeful that a lot more than just the little dots. And next year, hopefully, it's not just those few dots, but 2, 3, 4 times those dots across the world on your world map, for SEPA deployments. Again, it's open, disaggregated. It's what the telcos are saying that they want. And now, that they've seen actual benefits, I'm very hopeful that they will all start engaging in not, with you, but also in the community, the overall ecosystem, right? That's what this whole open ecosystem is supposed to be about. So I'm looking forward to that. Very good. Excellent. So thank you, audience, for having stayed with us. And hopefully this was as useful for you as it was for me. I know I learned a lot. Thank you again, Suleiman and Mustafa, for your time today. And if you have questions, if you have queries, if you're interested, then let me have Mustafa round off and tell you how to reach him and NETSIA. So go ahead, Mustafa.
Yeah, through netsia.com, you can have it. It was actually my last slide. I don't want to share it again.
No, that's okay. Yes.
Just reach anyone in NETSIA team. Use the contact@netsia.com to reach us. We are here to help you.
Excellent. All right. Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for your time today. Hope you
Thank
enjoyed
you.
it.
Thank you very much, Roy, and thank you, everyone.